All right, welcome Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan here with which is the abbreviated and unintelligible version of Keith, just like the movie is to the book. Keith, what's up, buddy?
I thought you were speaking in parcel tongue there. Okay.
I am not a partial mouth, no. We're breaking down some box office bangers here at the Buddy Book Club, and this week we'll be discussing 2007's Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix, the film. If you'd like to recommend a book or movie for us to read or watch, you can reach out to us about any past episodes on buddybookclub.com or send us an owl on Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. So give us a review, 5 stars if you will, and give us a follow on social channels, please, and thank you. Keith, so we had done the Order of the Phoenix book, which you finished way before I did. Sorry, having a baby kind of threw me off there. And then I was excited to sit down and watch a movie because it took me so long to read the book. I feel like I hadn't watched a Harry Potter movie in a while. With having the baby and sleeping schedules and with your significant other, you see each other, but you don't see each other because you're kind of, one person's trying to get some sleep while the other person's taking care of the baby, and you're just kind of like two ships passing in the night. So I felt like this was going to be a great opportunity for us to sit down and together just enjoy a Harry Potter movie.
You thought wrongly.
We definitely got to sit down together, which was nice, but enjoy the Harry Potter movie we did not. That being said, let's get into some stock up, stock down. Keith, what do you have for stock up for this film?
Stock up, the TV show Lost.
Oh.
Yeah. Lost, just for those that haven't watched, that's probably the most enthralling TV show I ever watched, at least the first 3 seasons. Binge watching was not a thing back in the day. That became a thing for me, at least with Lost. That was the first show I ever binged.
How did you binge it?
It was on ABC. They used to do it on their own site, so it was abc.com. You could just go and just stream it. So I'd get back. It was at college. I'd get back and I'd just be like, I gotta get like 3 episodes of Lost in right now. Between every class I was watching it. The problem was, as I pointed out, and many I'm sure, is that a lot of stuff was never answered, so it became pretty disappointing at the end. Yeah. One of the biggest things that wasn't answered was, what was the black smoke monster? Well, it turns out they were just Death Eaters.
Yeah.
If they just said that, I would have understood, and honestly, that's why it's a stock up for Lost. But turning to the page to the Harry Potter side, what the hell did I just watch? What was that fight scene, D-Man? That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And then the one thing I talked about the book episode is I didn't understand what the veil was. I was like, what's going to be great is the movie's going to explain.
Yeah, you'll
Very
see.
visual appealing. Yeah. The veil didn't mean anything. In the book, correct me if I'm wrong, he gets knocked into the veil and he's dead.
Well, he Avada Kedavras, or I think as you call it, like abracadabras or something.
In the clip, you're laughing at me saying that. I didn't know. I thought you were laughing because it was funny that I said that. I'm mispronouncing it. Is that what you're laughing about?
Yeah. Well, which is also funny because when we were watching the movie, I think Helen Bonham Carter, who plays Bellatrix Lestrange, the wife pointed this out. I'm pretty sure she says abracadabra. Like, I don't think she actually says Avada Kedavra.
She's like a Juilliard trained actor, I'm pretty sure. So we're on the same page.
Yeah, but in the book, he gets abracadabra'd and then falls into the veil. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he's dead because he got abracadabra. Then that was my whole point. Is like, there's no mystery. If you get hit by a spell, a death spell, you're dead. It doesn't matter that you went into the veil or not. I thought he got like a stun spell and then like fell into it, and then he was like, "Where did he go?" And then they're like, "Yeah, he's done."
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to revisit it. I'm like almost certain, but maybe I'm just tainted from seeing the movie a few times. But no, because Bellatrix kills him. You're assuming if she just like stunned him and he went into that, but yeah.
I mean, there's no really like mystery then if you shoot a killing spell at someone. It's like the guy got shot in the head, but like then I didn't see his body after. It's like but you saw the bullet go through his brain, right? It's like but what happened to him after that? It's like, oh, he's dead. What do you mean? So
you didn't like that fight scene?
Oh, I hated it. What is the point of the clouds of smoke coming, and then the white clouds being the good guys, the black clouds coming in being the bad guys, and like it's like this is the dumbest thing. They're just like, oh, this is what magic looks like. Why don't we just take the source material and actually use spells? And like the worst part too is like the Dumbledore Voldemort fight.
Yeah.
It was just Star Wars where they're doing like electricity and like blocking it instead of the book was perfect. Like, why did you not just? They spent all their budget on the special effects of the smoke, and they're like, we can't spend any of it on in this fight. We'll just do 2 lightning bolts.
They definitely couldn't spend it on the centaurs. The centaurs looked like something from, I don't know, 1995 or like David versus the Argonauts or whatever that like 1960s movie is with claymation. I was like, wait. Good thing they're not having any close-ups of these centaurs because they're terribly done. But I wanted to just quickly on the smoke thing, because that's obviously sticking in your craw. I had the Death Eaters as like, I wasn't sure if I loved or hated it because the costumes, like the Death Eater costumes, I think are phenomenal. The Death Eaters show up straight up in their costumes. Lucius Malfoy does little things, so like his mask kind of smokes away. I was like, that's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah, that was fine with that.
And then when they all start doing the smoke monster stuff, I thought it was the dumbest shit I'd ever seen. I was like, wait, I'm confused. So everyone just flies around as smoke, and then like they're apparating, but they're just flying around as smoke around the kids and whatnot. Why would you ever? And it seems like they can cast spells from their smoke state. Right. So it's like, why would you ever land? Like, why would you ever assume this human shape? It seems like you're impossible to hit when you're a smoke monster. And I agree, like I understand obviously the contrasting versus like light and dark, but like, where does that come from? Why not just, like you said, use the source material, have an actual battle where people are just standing and fighting, not this like pseudo apparition thing going on? Because I assume that's what they're doing. They're like apparating, but in slow motion.
Yeah, it became a sci-fi movie instead of a movie in the real world that has magic. There was all some sort of logic base of like, hey, you need to learn these spells, and everyone can cast different spells, and some people are better at certain things, and it's a training. And this is just like, oh, I'll just turn into a magic smoke monster. We'll just fly around. There's like no particular strategy or anything going on. It's just
it went from like Harry Potter to Tron all of a sudden. Or I don't even get it.
It's a Lost, even, yeah.
And I couldn't agree with you more on the Dumbledore Voldemort thing, because I had forgot a bunch about this movie because I hadn't seen it in so long. And after reading the book, how we were pretty jazzed about that Voldemort Dumbledore fight, because it was one of the first ones that we felt like it wasn't just people casting Expelliarmus against each other, and it was like an actual, oh, this is real magic situation. And then they first connect with their wands, and I was like, oh, this is Star Wars. I thought the exact same thing. I was like, oh, this is just Emperor versus Yoda situation. They did mix in a couple of things, Dumbledore with the fire snake and Voldemort with the fire snake, and Dumbledore with like the water stuff and the glass, which I thought that part was pretty cool, but just make the statues come to life and defend you or whatever the things that were going on in the book. It just, I unfortunately, they went for this like spectacle, which I feel like isn't needed for like diehard Harry Potter fans. A bunch of people that are going to go see this movie obviously aren't diehard Harry Potter fans, but they're Harry Potter fans presumably, or the parents of kids that are Harry Potter fans. So who cares about those people? They're paying for their ticket anyways. So just make it Harry Potter and don't make it this new, I don't know, like you said, this like new sci-fi thing. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. My first, and I think my only stock up, unfortunately, here for this one, but we're trying to abbreviate just like this movie did, was casting directors. So I had to get stock up to casting directors. It's not something we talk about ever in any of our few movie pods that we've done, and not something I really think about, but I wanted to give a shout out to Fiona Weir, who's the casting director for this one. We do have a couple new characters, like we talked about when we did the book version, but we have Luna, Umbridge, and Bellatrix, and talk about going 3 for 3 at the plate. I mean, we got Ivana Lynch as Luna, which I think was like an open casting call. They picked her out of like 15,000 applicants or something like that. So I feel like that's equally easy and hard to pick out someone that's that good. You probably just have a couple minutes with people, and I thought she was the perfect Luna Lovegood. What do you think?
Yeah, I went 3 for 3, I thought.
Yeah. Imelda Staunton as Umbridge did that character perfectly. Her ahems were great. She was so hateable, which is exactly what we need. Wasn't as toadish as she is in the book, which I appreciate, because Imelda seems like a nice person, and we didn't want to turn her into a toad. And Helen Bonham Carter as Bellatrix, not necessarily her. You thought it was more of a Fight Club situation, but crazier than that for sure.
Yeah, no, I thought it was on par hair wise, and like I think her teeth were a little bit fucked up, but yeah, otherwise, I mean, she just plays that role perfectly.
Yeah, I guess they wanted the woman, I can't remember what the actress's name is, from Peaky Blinders, who eventually plays Narcissa. Yeah. So she was supposed to be the Bellatrix, but then she got pregnant and she was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do the fight scenes. I can't become a smoke person if I have a baby in me. It's like, you can't do that in your first trimester. So recasting her, before we continue to go on this dark hole of hating on this film, I think those three characters, the acting and just the way that they took that character on, I thought was perfect. I thought that was the truest love to the book itself, was how these actors portrayed these characters. Did you have any other stock ups?
Yeah, last one was just Cho Chang stock up.
Oh, interesting.
Came out pretty good in the movie compared to the book, I thought. In the book, it's obviously her friend who gives them up, but then she defends them, which we both didn't care for. But in this, she gives them up, and it's only because she's influenced by the truth serum, which in the book was fake, so that opens up another whole can of worms there. But
I don't think the truth serum was fake. You keep saying that, but I'm not sure it was in the book.
Snape basically said that the truth serum was fake.
We need someone to check us out.
Yes, in Harry Potter: The Order of the Phoenix, Snape does indeed give Dolores Umbridge a fake Veritaserum potion. When Umbridge interrogates Harry Potter, she demands that he drinks. During the interrogation, Harry drinks, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah, so you're 100% right. Hand up.
I'm a close reader.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm a close
Anyways, where was I?
Yeah, with Cho.
So this is really a hate in disguise, honestly. I know it's a stock up, but it's really a hate in disguise. One, I like the middle of the night, I woke up and I was just thinking about this. I was like, God damn it, this pissed me off. Filch and Malfoy in the movie know what the room requirement is. They see it, right?
Yeah,
like that's a big change.
Big
in the movie.
montage.
The mystery is just like how they get in. How do they get in there? So what does giving a truth serum to Cho do? It doesn't make any sense. They give her a truth serum. So, in essence, would be to tell them where the room is, but they already know where it is. And then, okay, fine. They give her the truth serum so they can get in. How do they get in there? They just blow the door down.
Yeah.
So they didn't need the truth serum at all. Cho didn't need to tell them where it was. What is she in trouble for? Why do they use the truth? It didn't make any sense. JK would never let this fly. So whoever the screenwriters were, the directors were, what are we doing? It doesn't make... It's just like the biggest plot hole. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, David Yates was the director. This was his first...
And he does all the rest of them.
Yeah, this is his first Harry Potter movie. And really kind of like his first real movie. He was like a TV director. And supposedly the producers hired him after a bunch of other people said no, which is always a tough one. They hired him because I guess in the TV shows he had done, some like British TV shows, it was kind of political, but not really hammering down on the politics. It was more like using the rest of the story to kind of show this political ideology or whatever the case is. I don't know. I'm saying that terribly, but I understand the idea, because that's kind of what this movie and this book is it's, there's a lot of politics going around in the wizarding world that are touching Hogwarts all of a sudden, and Harry's at the center of it with Dumbledore. So I understand that, why you're trying to tell a story, but also get this political stuff that's going on in the society into it. I don't know if that's the number one reason to hire someone for a story. I'm not going to say it's necessarily all his fault. I agree the script was not good. It was the longest Harry Potter book, 870 pages in the US edition. So the longest Harry Potter book at the time. And it's comes out to be the second shortest film. So I'm sure there was some studio pressure to shorten the film, because the last Goblet of Fire was like almost 3 hours, right? It was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. So they probably didn't want another one of those. It missed the mark, unfortunately. And to your Cho point, the only problem I had with that is it kind of makes it seem like Harry dumped Cho because she turned them in, and then finds out later, oh, she didn't turn them in. Like it was, right, Veritaserum or whatever the case is. Because Harry gives this look when he finds out, like, oh shit, which I feel like you'd be able to fix that with Cho.
Right.
You'd be
like,
or
she would just say,
they drugged me.
Which they were doing to all the kids in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know why that was added in. They already knew where the room was. I mean, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and they also had that weird scene with the Weasley twins when they're like rubbing that little boy's shoulder, being like, it hurts at first, but then it goes away. And I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, they're Umbridge's office. Got it. Well, I'm just saying, that's like what the line was. It was very confusing. I was like, I used to like Fred
it really wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't also very implied. They should have just showed his hand.
Yeah.
They didn't. So you're like, what are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, they're just like all up in this kid's business, like in his personal space, telling him it hurts at first. I was like, whoa.
Also, to close it out, the River Requirement, another stock down. You like it, but we got the mistletoe coming out when Harry gets his first kiss. Mm-hmm. And then he keeps kissing, and it keeps growing. Mm-hmm. How about giving me a nice little bed, or it'll help my boy out a little bit? Yeah, that's on you. You know that.
Indeed. Hopefully, they're practicing important stuff at Hogwarts, and there's some Trojans going on in the Rumor Requirement for him right there. Yeah, right, they also show in that montage a few times like them sneaking out of a side door in the Rumor Requirements, which one doesn't exist, but if it did. Why wouldn't they just do that when Umbridge came and blew the door down? Nice stock up, Keith. Really good. Really well done. My first stock down, because we'll go there, is Cliff Notes stock down. We'd had them lying around. Either like my sister had them or I'd buy them, whatever the case. Super useful. I feel like they've probably gone the way of the dough.
Oh, you had the physical ones?
Yeah.
I went online ones.
Oh no. Yeah. I mean, we were like at that point, we both graduated high school in the early 2000s. So we were at that point when the internet still hadn't necessarily caught on, and like the stuff you could find on there I found wasn't perfect. And go to the bookstore and they'd have these Cliff Notes you could buy for like $5 or whatever the case is. Yeah, we used to use it a lot. And it's funny, I feel like now that just doesn't exist anymore. But I just wanted to give some stock down to Cliff Notes because the actual books themselves were quite useful. Like they told exactly what the story was, then they'd have some things in the back with like themes and whatever, the stuff you'd normally find at test. Very useful. It seems like they were trying to Cliff Note this book into a movie. And unfortunately, they ruined the whole idea of Cliff Notes because they didn't do a very good job of it. And, I just wanted to call out a couple things. Ron and Hermione being prefects, not included. I think that is somewhat important because it seems like what they wanted to do here was really focus on Harry and his like emotional journey through the book.
I was going to say, you could have just stopped at Ron and Hermione not included. You didn't need to add the prefect. They were like barely in the movie.
Yeah, and the prefect thing is a big early situation for Harry's emotional journey is, what the heck, Ron and Hermione are prefects and I'm not. I didn't understand why that wasn't included. Another thing is the Quidditch scenes, the entire Quidditch, everything was taken out of this movie. How do you feel about that? Because I personally think, yeah, it sucks, but I can understand if you're trying to cut out a half hour, take out the Quidditch stuff. It's not the most important.
Yeah, no, I was fine with it. I don't think it was crucial to this one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate in the sense that I feel like the Quidditch is more of a Ron story in Order of the Phoenix, the book, and for Ron's entire story arc throughout the series, it's unfortunate because it's like a big thing for him in terms of wanting to do something, failing at it miserably, and but then making his big save at the end or whatever the case is. I think that's big for him. Unfortunately, we don't get that in this, and for me, the biggest part of the Cliff Notes that was a stock down was that it seems like the middle portion of the book was just compressed and condensed into an ununderstandable or whatever the case is story that was mostly just like a series of montages, like Umbridge, the entire Umbridge taking over Hogwarts, creating her special orders, sitting in on lessons, to the creation of the Inquisitorial Squad and the sacking of Trelawney, which is several chapters in the book, was compressed down to one montage. Up until the sacking of Trelawney, it was one montage.
As my stock down as montages. I'm a huge montage guy. Give me Rocky training in the mountains. Give me Rocky running through Philadelphia. Yeah.
All montages I'm a big fan of. I feel like all the Ocean's movies have wonderful montages.
Oh yeah, you get a nice little music track behind it. Oh, I'm all in. This movie just terrible. The montages they did too. The worst one by far was the Filch, who is now just the comic relief trying to get in.
Yeah,
it was like Tom and Jerry, like. Dun, 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 dun.
It was very Looney Tunesy kind of situation.
Exactly, Looney Tunesy. Do you remember V for Vendetta? Stephen Fry, who's the narrator. Remember when he does the scene where he's making fun of the Chancellor, and the terrorist guy with the mask is running around, and it has that music playing in the background.
Yeah, Benny Hill. It's got like Benny Hill music on.
That was the whole scene with Filch. It was like this wacky music. We went from this like dark, Harry's disturbed and he's possessed intro, which I thought was great, actually. I thought the first like 15, 20 minutes was really good. And then we went to from that to Umbridge, which is great. And then hit a point where then montages started and like newspaper clippings started. Mm-hmm. And from there, it became Looney Tunes and silliness and like skipping like 90% of the story. It's like, what's going on? It was a completely different movie all of a sudden. Yeah. And that happened for the next like 70 minutes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the newspaper stuff too, because it seemed like they were like doing exposition. I mean, they definitely were, and like trying to say parts of the story through these like newspaper stuff, which I didn't necessarily hate, because I get the idea that, you know, that's the political aspect is, you know, there's a media portion to this, and there is a media portion to the story itself too. But then once again with the Cliff Notes, like getting rid of the whole Rita Skeeter thing, telling Harry's side of the story and him getting shit on for that. And then also that being the reason why Seamus comes back to him and says he believes him. I feel like that, you know, you could have just said that in a quick scene too. It didn't have to be a big deal. It seemed like they kind of just were pushing everything together as one and trying to tell this story. A lot of the stuff I didn't necessarily hate. Like some of the shifts at like who did what and when. The Weasley twins doing their fire thing, not like their firecracker thing, not to help Harry get to the fireplace or whatever. You know, they just kind of take things out. Like Neville shows them the room of requirements instead of Dobby. Although, like, you know, we love Dobby, and Dobby's a big character. The later books and movie, you know, you have to have that emotional support, but at the same time, I'm all right with it. Them not seeing Neville at St. Mungo's, and instead Neville telling Harry, you know, the room requirements. Those stuff is fine. Like, I understand when you want to like cut bigger scenes out to kind of compress them and change who did what and when, as long as it still continues to tell the story. But just pushing everything together and then making it silly and not really in line with the theme of the book, in my mind, kind of pissed me off.
I think they could have also just not had Trelawney and made that scene Hagrid. That would have made way more sense. Okay, well, Trelawney's, I don't know anything about her in the story. She just comes in for one scene and then she's getting fired, and you're like, all right, I guess. You're not really pulling for her at all, whereas if Hagrid gets fired in front of everyone, you're like, what the fuck? It seems like a lot of interesting choices that didn't add or help the story at all.
I agree. What else, Jeff?
Having Harry's back stocked down. Harry comes into the Gryffindor common room like early in the movie, and everyone's murmuring and looking at him funny. And I know there's like division between even in Gryffindor, but right there is Fred and George, and even they are looking at him like, "What do you like? What's Harry doing here?" And then Seamus. This is like the most illogical thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, honestly, I almost like stopped the movie to rewind it, because they walk in. It says like Harry on the front cover being like, Harry's a complete piece of shit fraud. He just saw someone get murdered right in front of his eyes 2 months ago. And they're like, Harry walks in, it's like, what's going on, guys? And he's like, well, Seamus is having a really, really tough time. And they're like, why is that? He's like, well, his mom almost didn't let him come to school. What? Like, that's your argument? The logic makes no sense. You literally are talking to a guy that has his face on the cover of a newspaper saying, this guy's a piece of shit. And he just saw someone murdered. Everyone's helping Seamus out. Where's the logic in this? It doesn't make any sense. And then Fred and George don't say shit. Like, and Fred and George are regardless of what Harry's done for them or know about the Order of Phoenix, they obviously know that. They obviously are not ones to keep their mouths shut. Would 100% step up and talk shit back to Seamus. They would defend his honor 100% of the time. Plus, Harry just gave him 1,000 galleons 2 months ago. They had a double motivation to do that. And they just sit back and they're like, yeah, Harry. It's like, it doesn't make any sense, D-Man.
Or they'd lean into it heavy and be like, Harry sucks, you know? And
yeah, that's it. I'd be fine with that even.
Yeah, exactly. Just as like a joke to them, as like, obviously Harry doesn't suck, but they would just lean into it heavy.
And the worst part is, like I mentioned, we don't really see Ron and Hermione much. Hermione, we're 3/4 into the movie. Sirius just like told them like, yeah, people are disappearing, all this stuff's happening, and Hermione, like this like dramatic moment. We've already know about the Order of Phoenix. We already know about Harry's everything in the backstory. Hermione looks off into the distance and says, "Wow, he's really out there." Talking about Voldemort, it's like, yeah.
Where you been?
Where have you been this whole time? Oh, he's out there? I didn't even realize that.
In the movie canon, she was too concerned about not getting those letters at the end of last year that she forgot about the whole Voldemort thing. The letters from Harry and Ron, when at the end of 4, when she's like, you guys will write me, right? It's like, wait, what? Voldemort's back and you're concerned about getting written to? She's been checked out on this whole Voldemort thing since then.
she's like, guys, I just figured it out. Yeah. Voldemort's back. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah. I felt like all the school stuff in terms of like the pressure for OWLs was really kind of taken out of it, which it's a long book. I get it. But like you said, it's just Hermione and Ron just aren't really big characters. They're just like set pieces in this thing. And I guess if you were to cut something, they spent like 15 minutes on Harry's courtroom scene, which that could have been compressed down to 2 minutes. Just like, oh, they say that you did this. And he's like, I didn't. And then Dumbledore comes in. He's like, oh, we have this woman. Okay, gotta go. Bye.
Well, the pacing for everything up to the first 20 minutes was like, this is a normally paced movie. Yes. It's making sense. Yes. And then, like I said, after the 20-minute mark, which was like right after that, they're like, oh, shit, we have to now compress the 80% of the book in the next 40 minutes. It's like, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like when you or I are taking our OWLs, we spend the first hour on the first 3 questions and we're like, wow, we really did a good job. And then you flip the page and you realize there's a whole nother set of questions. You're like, oh my God. And you just start circling things. It's kind of like how this one felt. Did you have a favorite scene?
Fred and George scene, even though the context wasn't really great, them leaving Hogwarts, I think that hit. I think that was pretty good. Yeah. The whole, I mean, not to bring more hates, but like the whole him nailing decrees into the wall, I don't care. That was like 5 to 10 minutes of the film of him just showing him hammering. It's like, what is this? Who is this for? What does this matter?
Part of the montage. I don't know. Maybe like stock up to Filch's workout regimen, because I feel like
Filch is in the movie more than half the characters, not in the main characters. Let's be honest, sure. Right? He was.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Stock up to Filch's workout regimen.
Well, he's able to hammer those things into stone.
That's true.
You gotta respect it. Yeah, I guess for me, a favorite scene, I don't know. I guess like the Hall of Prophecy stuff, just to see all those prophecies everywhere was like pretty cool. The Ministry itself, it's our first look into the Ministry, really. I did like the Ministry as a whole. I thought that was like a cool set and like setting. So like stuff that happened in there I thought was fun. It was unfortunate to me that we didn't get more of the stuff going on with the time turners. I mean, when the guy's head gets stuck in the time turner and it goes from like baby to old man or stuff like that. Wow, that would have been cool to see. The whole brain situation with Ron would have been cool to see. So it's unfortunate it really just got chalked down to the Hall of Prophecies with smoke monsters and then the Veil Room with smoke monsters. That was unfortunate, but I did like the Ministry in general, and I thought the Thestrals were well done as well.
Although the reason for them, they're like, we got to get out of here, let's fly. And it's like, well, the Thestrals have a good sense of direction. That's why they're important. And then they didn't have their brooms, which you don't cover in because they don't play Quidditch ever. So yeah, like the whole reason for them flying didn't make any sense. So
that's true. How did you feel about, instead of Hagrid having the class with the Thestrals and explaining it to them, it's just like Luna and Harry in the Forbidden Forest and Luna giving the whole Thestral talk?
Yeah, I was fine with that. I mean, she was just a great actress.
I agree. Yeah, more Luna screen time I wasn't too upset about, which takes me to picking my character, which for this movie would, similarly we picked it for the book, but I thought Luna or Umbridge again for me. Simple as that. It's just it's Luna or Umbridge. I could do a montage about it, but I won't.
I want pound for pound or time on screen to impact Bellatrix. Oh, I think she was more fair. Scary than Voldemort. Oh, Voldemort showed up. Like, I don't care. I want to see more of Bellatrix. What she's about.
All right, love, hate. What do you got for love?
I already mentioned the first 20 minutes of the movie. I thought was very solid. It was dark. It was kind of right to the point. I appreciate it. Although I will say, I keep on looking out for Tonks, because I remember you saying Tonks is Caroline's favorite character. And I was like, I don't even know who Tonks is when you said that. I was like, I don't remember her at all. I keep on waiting her to shine through, but when they introduce her in this, first of all, she's super young. Secondly, I was like, is that Harry's love interest in this movie? Because she was literally... I fucking the shit out of them, to quote Wedding Crashers. Both of them, they were like flying and like winking at each other. Huh? I didn't know this is his new love interest in the movie.
You mean when they're super secretly wizard flying, like through the streets in the River Thames? And it's like, what?
Yeah, it's not very many people there. Don't worry about that.
It's Caroline's favorite character in the books, not necessarily the movie. I feel like in the movie, she has whatever happens there. Didn't she do like funny faces at Christmas, or is that in the next movie?
She did that. That was it. She was in the movie for the flying scene, and then she did like a pig face, and they never showed her ever again.
Yeah, it's like, oh, she has the ability to make pig faces. Weird. She's much better in Game of Thrones. She plays the wildling, Game of Thrones. Yep.
Oh, that's right. Okay, good call. Yeah.
My first love was the direction of Ginny Weasley. So the director's job at directing the Ginny Weasley character. Order of Phoenix should be the biggest movie yet for Ginny. And that's saying something considering...
Well, the second movie, she should be, right?
She should be in that as well, which she's less of than in the book. But even in the book, she's more of like bits and pieces of her in the background. And then like her being really nervous or running off and stuff like that. Just to kind of lead up to the end. She's not really having long conversations. It's like someone asking, hey, Ginny, are you okay? And then her being like, oh, I'm fine, but not being fine. Whereas in this book, she's kind of starting to hang out with the gang. You know, she's in the DA. She goes to the ministry with them. It's a whole thing. And eventually she's Harry's love interest. And, you know, this should be the movie that you ramp her up because she's going to be in the next one a lot, or she should be, with Harry's growing love interest. And then not really in the seventh one, naturally, because it's kind of a Harry, Ron, and Hermione movie. But this one should be the one they really ramp her up in because she's in the book a lot. Bonnie Wright, who plays Ginny, might be the worst actress I've ever seen in any movie ever. So I was really happy that they decided to just give her 0 lines and just have her look at the camera or look at a different character. It was so well directed because I'm sure they had some lines for her and she opened up her mouth and they were like, oh, you have no chemistry with Harry. You have no chemistry with movies, like being an actual actress. So unfortunately we cast you when you were 10 years old, so we can't recast you. So we're just going to have you not say anything at all and just look around. So I was pretty pleased with that.
I feel like this is a recurring thing that you keep on talking about how terrible she is. And she's had, in the 5 movies we've watched, she said 3 lines, like, to your point. So I'm like, I don't know where you're getting it from. So maybe the next movie, that's when you say it. Every time she's on screen, I stare at her because I'm like, exactly. She must be terrible at acting. Well, that's because you've led the witness. I'm like literally just staring at her being like, yeah, she is doing something weird there. You're right, D-Man. But I'm like, wait, why am I looking at her? She's not even talking.
But that's the thing, is like every scene that she's in, it's like, it has nothing to do with her, but you see her character because she's just doing something out of sorts. Like, it's like she has earplugs in when other people are talking and is just like looking around confused at what's happening, as opposed to being like, yeah, Harry's talking, Ginny, and he's saying something that should frighten you. And she's like sitting there smiling. It's like she legitimately just doesn't know what's happening.
I don't know if you've seen this on Instagram. And there's a clip of a guy going like, I found this major flaw in Harry Potter. Watch here. And they just show Ginny Weasley as this person doesn't have a personality.
Yeah. That's it. Zero personality.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
zero
like,
personality on screen. I'm sure Bonnie Wright is a wonderful person, but it just has nothing, like gives 0. It's an incredible performance. It's amazing, actually. What else you have for love?
The story choices were awful. But acting was great. So it wasn't like their fault. You know, so I also thought Harry Harry gets better every movie acting-wise.
Yeah, I agree. Caroline doesn't think so. Caroline thinks he's bad. I think he's really good.
I've seen him in, there's one where he breaks out of prison. He's an amazing actor in that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I have seen that movie. He's very good.
Yeah, he's the lead. He's like on screen the whole movie. And I'm like, you're like, oh, I forgot he's in Harry Potter. Like, you don't think of him as a Harry. He's a South African. He's doing the accent perfectly the whole movie. I think he gets better every movie. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I appreciate that. And we already mentioned all the other great casting. And the ending wasn't terrible. Or at least I don't remember it being terrible.
Oh, really?
Oh, you hate it? You have a bone effect. Okay, good. All right, good. We want to keep the streak alive.
What was the actual like last scene ending? Oh, it's like them walking by the Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, the one thing that Voldemort doesn't have is friendship, and I was like, all right, I can at least live with that. That's like not the worst. But the thing is, compared to last movie, it was so good. Yeah. So, did you have an issue with it?
No, I didn't necessarily have an issue with that part. I thought that part was fine because that is a main point of Harry Potter. So I'm glad they got it in there. It's that Dumbledore doesn't have the capacity for love, compassion, friendship, like all of the human traits that we hold
Voldemort,
dear.
You mean? Or are you talking about the actor Dumbledore?
I always say Dumbledore instead of Voldemort. Yeah. I don't know why.
Oh, the actor, I wouldn't say that you're wrong about that.
No, Michael Gambon, fuck you. No, Voldemort. Voldemort doesn't have the capacity for those things. And Harry is the equal and opposite to that. So even though, Harry might not be as good of a wizard. He has the support of others, and because of that, they're able to prevail. So yes, I'm fine with that. It was some other stuff that I didn't like, which I'll get into in my hates anyways.
Okay.
For the acting, I continue to think that Emma Watson is not very good at acting. I don't know how you feel like Hermione's fine.
Well, I saw the movie The Circle. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It has like an all-star cast. It's her, Tom Hanks. It's everything about it. If you like read the description, every single thing about it should be, this movie's gonna crush. And she's like the main person in it, and I was like, she is terrible at acting. Like, this is a terribly acted movie. And like every time I tell someone that, they're like, no, she's great in Harry Potter. I'm like, I don't think she's good. I think she's Hermione, so she's good. But acting wise, yikes.
Yeah, I mean, they don't give her enough lines to really like, it's like she has one at bat and struck out. And you're like, oh, she's terrible. So it's not really that fair necessarily. Every time she talks, it just seems like, I don't know, like she's just not very good. Like Ron, I think is great, and he has the same amount of lines. He just plays that character really well. So I guess I'll get into my hate, and it's not necessarily the ending itself. It's the whole prophecy thing. I loved it in the book, and we talked about it in the last podcast, about the conversation between Harry and Dumbledore is maybe the best ever in the whole series. And we get a ton of lore. It's like a really long conversation. We learn a lot about the future. And in the movie, they decide for some reason that when Harry breaks the prophecy that he hears it. So we all hear it at the time. And then we're just thinking about the prophecy as that whole fight's happening, because I'm like, wait, what does that prophecy mean? If I was hearing it for the first time, that's what I'd be thinking. Where I feel like it would have been so much better to just do what the book did, which is the prophecy breaks, no one hears it. You can even say like, well, now the prophecy's lost forever. And then 10 minutes later, Dumbledore's like, actually, Harry, I do have the prophecy and I know it. And they jump into the pensive and they hear the whole thing. It makes it a bigger reveal there. Because then instead he just like asks Dumbledore, he's like, so the prophecy means that either Voldemort or I is going to have to die? And Dumbledore's like, yep. And then it's like, let's go to the next scene. There's just not this great long conversation between the two of them about the future and what this prophecy means and stuff like that happens in the book. And it's just really unfortunate because once again, it seemed like it was just a really quick scene that didn't need to be quick. And that's a really important scene that shouldn't have been.
Yeah. Well, especially since it's like the climax of the movie. You're in this dark, mysterious place. You don't want that to be the most crucial lines to be said then. You want the action to speak for itself. Just be like envelop you. You're not like, wait, what did they just, can you replay that? What did they just say within the prophecy? That's where you put that in a still room and you have one camera on the one guy, one camera on the other person. They're telling them that. Like, that's where you need that for, not all this stimuli going on. And
yeah, no, I agree. I feel like we had this amazing battle. It's like, oh shit, we didn't get the prophecy out of it. And then Harry and Dumbledore sit down and Dumbledore's like, oh, Harry, actually, I was the one the prophecy was told to. Like, step into the pensive. It's like, oh, cool. Like, now we're going to get it. So yeah, unfortunate. What other hates?
Dumbledore, awful. Just terrible. I was thinking too, I was like, what's good about this Dumbledore is like, I think I told you the last one, I was like, when we get to the action scenes, that's where he's going to shine. He's going to be much more physical, and every action scene he's in, he has a look of fear and like, this isn't going to go well, like type acting look. I'm like, what's happening? Even when Trelawney gets fired, he's like, actually, like, you can stay here. And in the book, he's like, nah, actually, I know what I'm talking about. You don't know shit. That's why he comes in with that swagger and says, you're staying here, Trelawney. In the movie, he's like, you can stay here, I think, Trelawney. And she's like, well, I'm going to change that rule. And he's like, oh, no. And he walks away being like, oh, no. What do I do now? Like, this is the weakest character I've ever seen. Like, what is the point of Dumbledore? He's the weakest person. Just annoyed. Annoyed with him.
Not enough swag, for sure. He doesn't have the Dumby swag. I couldn't agree more. I don't know why they continue to do this with the movies, unfortunately. And I can't really remember about the sixth one, so I'm interested to see how that goes, because obviously he plays a much bigger part. Yeah, David Yates is the director. We already talked about that a bunch of times. I'm not going to say, anything more on that. A couple little ones. Hermione calling Ron Ronald several times throughout this movie. Didn't understand it. I don't think she calls him Ronald once in the books, but she calls him Ronald.
When she's like angry at him or something, or
let's listen for it in the books, I guess. But I don't think so. And I mean, even in the movie's so short, she probably says his name. She only has a few lines, and she calls him Ronald, I think, like 3 different times. It was like, what's going on here? His name's Ron, and you know his name's Ron. Like, you want to see him with his clothes off. Let's not call him Ronald. And then the last one I had was when Harry steps into the pensive to see the Snape memory. The Snape with the toilet paper on his shoe gag, like, what is this? What are we doing here? Did you need to have the toilet paper on the shoe for Snape?
That really bothered you.
It did. It just seemed like such low-hanging fruit to as a way to be like, oh, look at this idiot right here. It's just such a stupid cartoon gag that they decided to do. And it's also the Wizarding World. Like, don't they just vanish poo from their buttholes with a simple spell? That you don't need toilet paper. The toilet paper is never referenced, right?
Is that correct?
It must be. It has to be. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any. That would. You're telling me in the thousands of years of wand lore and all the jinxes and hexes and curses that people have created and all the ways they can do things with their wands that they don't just vanish poo from their buttholes.
They're wearing like cloaks and they're like discouraging entrepreneurship, kid. They're probably like using outhouses still. They probably don't even have like, they're like, what is this whole system where you can flush things? Like the idea of the extendable ears, like I said before, they're like, so you put this thing in your ear and you can hear from further away. That's been invented like 1920. The microphone is invented, right? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
So
yeah, those are the only things. I just thought the Snape thing was just kind of silly, and I don't know.
All right, my last one was McGonagall knowing about the Handscar stuff and then just getting owned on the argument from Umbridge. Mm-hmm. And also, like, there's nothing more that annoys me than the whole, like, when she was, like, taking one step up to show the arguments even, and then one step, you know what I'm talking about? Like, so Umbridge make a point, step up above.
I don't know what that's called, but it's called something, yeah.
Yeah, it's called something, but we get it. Filmmakers would probably love it. They're like, look at this. It shows the, like, it's like, yeah, but it's so obvious. So, like, it's not good if it's that obvious. Like, the movie Get Out, if you, like, go back and listen to all, like, the stuff that's in there, mm-hmm. and you're like, holy shit, that's so smart. It's, like, way above anything I could, like, the second you watch it,
mm-hmm.
it's almost better.
Yeah, agreed.
This is like, you see that was the first time I'm seeing it, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Oh, look at the subtlety there. It's like the least subtle thing ever. And also it makes McGonagall, who's another really strong character, look super weak. So didn't care for it. Dumbledore and McGonagall, both like the strongest characters in the book, are just so weak. Yeah, it
seemed like the one scene that they needed for McGonagall in this movie was when she gets reviewed by Umbridge, and she just owns Umbridge in the review scene. It's like, oh, okay. Like, Minerva's not getting stepped on by Dolores Umbridge. And unfortunately, it just kind of goes the other way. Oh, fuck.
Hate to see
I'm angrier. I'm angrier now. Why did we do this?
This is good. You don't think about it after, because I'll keep thinking about it. And once you get it all out here, it's over. Cathartic.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about studio notes or anything like that. I did want to shout out to Colin Bertram of the New York Daily News. I hope this man's been fired. He gave the film a 4 out of 4 stars, calling it the best Harry Potter film yet, and wrote that, and I quote, "Die-hard Harry Potter addicts will rejoice that Yates has distilled J.K. Rowling's broad universe with care and reverence." The complete and utter opposite of that, maybe like giant blade or a lightsaber. No, lightsaber is actually like, you know, maybe a rusty knife.
A rusted butter knife.
Yeah. So whatever happened, that guy, I don't know what movie that guy was watching. And I think I've never known quicker that someone was not a diehard Harry Potter fan than by that review of him just telling what diehard Harry Potter fans are.
I also went into this not knowing what people thought of this movie. So is this pretty universally thought that it's bad or good or one way or the other? Because I went in and I was like, this is going to be good. And
I have no idea. It's like a 79-81 on Rotten Tomatoes. So I feel like people must like it. And it made $900 million out of a $150 to $200 million budget. But the studio said they lost money on it. I don't know exactly how that works. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I didn't actually look too much into it because like I myself was just like, oh wow, I'm so upset at how bad this movie was in my opinion.
I got one listener email.
Oh, okay, shoot.
You've got mail.
This is from Jill in Houston.
Oh.
She says, now that we see how big giants actually are compared to humans.
Oh my God, don't.
How did Hagrid's dad and mom mate?
Yeah, I knew you.
Mate is a very adult term, and I appreciate that you're using that, Jill.
Fornicate. Yeah.
That's a good question.
It is. So I assume went head first, right? Is that what we're both assuming?
Is that how babies are made? I don't know still. So
yeah, well, I think if it was reversed, if he was the giant and
the position, or
no, if the father was the giant and the mom was the human or wizard, whatever the case is, it would be more difficult. Although I think there are videos online that you could see, Mr. Hands being one. Because considering it's the dad is the wizard and the mom's the giant, I think it's hot dog down a hallway situation.
All right, well that
Thanks,
solves
Jill.
that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
that solves that question.
Yeah. Health class must be really interesting in the wizarding world. I'm kind of surprised they don't have the important stuff really at Hogwarts. It's all the charms and defense against the dark arts when really we just need some health class. With all these categories and all this conversation, would you recommend this movie? Or I guess, what do you rate it? How many buddies we give in this thing out of 4?
Probably like a 1.5 for me. It's pretty low. I think all the other 4 movies, the third one, I would probably give another chance just because of how much everyone else likes it. So I'm probably giving that another chance down the road. All the other ones I'm continuing to watch through the series. 5, I almost put in a mark as a skip on that because I just did not think it was great.
I think we're a similar mindset. I gave it 1.75 buddies on the 4 buddy scale, and really just because I think it's a Harry Potter movie that it's tough for it to go lower. It was the worst movie I've watched this year, and I've watched about 70 movies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was tied technically at 1.75 with the original Dune movie, Dune made in 1984, which I might have to revisit that because I don't think that movie was as bad as this movie. So maybe I'm not giving this low enough. Now that I think about how this movie was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So 1.75 is the worst. And I'm usually pretty generous with, I'm fairly generous.
You're being generous, yeah.
With like
0.25 extra, yeah.
The mid-tier ones. That's unfortunate. But hey, we did it. We made it through. How does it rank on your movies? Is this your least favorite of all the movies, I assume?
Yeah, I think it's 4, 1, 2, 3, 5.
Yeah, I think I have like 4, 3, 1, 2, 5 is I think what mine is. I can't remember what I did for the last ones, but I know I like 3 a lot more than you did. It's my least favorite for sure. So if that wasn't clear from the last Check's Watch 45 minutes or an hour of shitting on this movie. So if you also hated this movie, reach out to us and let us know. And if you liked it, please tell us why. But Keith, what do we got coming up next?
Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, book-wise, and then the movie after that. And then we'll wrap it up with book 7 and the 2 movies. So yeah. Looking forward to it.
Very much so. We're on the final lap, as it were. And I hadn't read Half-Blood Prince in a long time, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. I caught probably 2 hours today of it, and it was a really enjoyable. It's good when it's the middle of football season, and I really love to catch up on some football stuff. And instead, I was like, you know what? I just want to listen to Harry Potter. So
there you go.
Yeah. We know we're liking it then. All right. Well, this was cathartic. I appreciate that. And I'll catch you next week for Half-Blood Prince.
I love it.
All right.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye now.